Glad to have you back. If you're just joining us, you're watching The Conversation right here on Lagos Television. I don't know the last time you went to your bank or to any of the ATMs, automated teller machines, to withdraw cash, or use your card to withdraw at any other bank that isn't yours. When last did you get cash? Well, I think we started seeing, beyond the time when we did the Naira redesign, we've struggled to actually maintain the liquidity that we've always enjoyed before the redesign. Even after the CBN issued statements back to back that, look, old Naira is still tenable, is still acceptable. We haven't given any restriction to withdraw it from circulation. But last year, around December, we had serious liquidity issues as far as cash is concerned. Now, it has brought us fast forward to January. That's the same challenge as well. Unending cash scarcity in banks and ATMs is the major challenge now. Beyond even the liquidity issue, if you go to your bank, you can't withdraw more than a certain amount of money. Why do we have this challenge? What are the implications and how do we resolve it? We've got a PR expert in the studio, a lawyer as well, Mr. Jide Ologun. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
It's my pleasure too.
So my first question to you is, when last did you try to go get money from the bank? Were you able to get as much as you wanted?
I was there yesterday, and
Wow.
I actually asked, how much are you paying? And she responded that any amount you want. So I filled in the teller for 100,000. Then after a while, she turned back to me and whispered, "That's sir, can you reduce it?"
Was that not the same person that said
Exactly.
you can get as much
I
as you
said,
want?
you just told me now that any amount I wanted. And she smiled. And I said, okay, reduce to how much? She said to 50,000 naira. And I promised that I will mention it in this program today. And I asked her, whose fault? Is it your fault or CBN? And that's a question they have not been able to answer, even though some banks have told me it's CBN that is not giving them money. But the same CBN is coming out to say you must release this money. In fact, recently, 9 banks were slammed with penalty fines of 150 million naira each. That's so. Where are we in all this that you push the blames all around? And so that has been my
recent experience
in the last 24 hours. So
okay.
It's still fresh.
Then please help us unravel the misery behind these cash scarcity in the banking halls, the ATM points, and we have somebody who should regulate the activities of these banks. Is it that the CBN is just backing without having the ability to bite? Or there is more to this?
Like I mentioned, the CBN stepped out to bite recently, and some of the big banks were affected. And you see, there are 2 major sources of cash for banks. You talk of the CBN and the retailers. As at, I think, 15th of December, 2024, about 4.3 trillion naira reported to be out of the bank. You see, so that's a serious challenge. And you recall that when Emefiele woke up, which is malicious counsel to the former president and commander-in-chief to redesign the Naira and eventually recolored some of the banknotes, it created crisis also. And the Nigerian attempt to move in the direction of a cashless policy has not recorded so much of success because of the supportive infrastructure not available. So when you put all this together, and some retailers decided that, okay, instead of taking my money to bank, and I have about 7 million naira there, and when I go, I can only withdraw 20,000 naira. Let me keep my money. That's on one side. On the other side, a huge business emerged for the POS operators, huge one, to the extent that even some filling station moved away from their major business to start, bringing POS operators to the filling stations to say, okay, you must go and pay through this, different kinds of sharp practices, that will not help the economy. So, and all these have added up to the pains of Nigerians, because from research, we understand we have about 40 million medium, micro and medium enterprises in Nigeria. And that forms about 80% of the business community in the informal sector. So what has happened is that the volume and velocity of business transactions have been negatively affected. And this can only add to the poverty, while some are cashing out, making huge sums of money. Because if you approach the POS, for instance, and you want to draw about 50,000, some pay as high as 1,000 naira for the 50,000 naira. And of course, we still have the incidence of those who hoard and who source, hoard, and resell mints, brand new notes, for those who spray this money at parties. So it's more or less about regulatory weakness in the nation, and a policy that wasn't well thought through. The cash redesign was malicious and poorly implemented. So even when the Supreme Court stepped in to rescue the situation, the damage had been done. There was cash transformation, currency transformation in Australia, but it did not take effect like Emefiele rolled out his own. It also happened in the UK. The economy was put into consideration, and money remains a huge factor when you talk about exchange. And when you talk about the economy, we are talking about production, consumption of products and services. So, and you have this exchange aspect of the value chain that must be vibrant to have a healthy economy. But here we are right now. The citizens are growing, particularly those in the micro sector of the economy.
Now, the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System recorded as at 2023 that over 600 trillion naira e-payment transaction was recorded. It shows that people are moving their transaction, in fact, exchanging more money online as we've ever seen before. Having said that, we do know that not the penetration hasn't gotten to that level that we've always wanted it. Some things can't be done online. You still have to buy for the small fish, the F4 and the tomatoes from the Malam. Even though Malam now takes transactions, oh boy, sometimes for ease of payment, for spontaneity and on transaction, you need to do cash listed. Because that's the whole essence of even online payment ab initio. But the challenge for me is, why is it difficult for us to resolve? Because I know what CBN is doing in terms of getting the banks to have cash with them. I can understand why somebody will want to keep the dollar, maybe to hedge or to speculate against the naira. So I understand. But why do you want to keep the naira? The number, because that was one of the arguments Emefiele gave, which you alluded to as well, is, look, we have so much money out there and it's not within the banking system. But the question is, why do you want to keep that much? What do Nigerians benefit? I may not be that intelligent to understand. Why keep that much money at home?
You see, while talking about alternatives, it must be vibrant. The best way to go is cashless. But that cashless must penetrate the cadres of the economy. For the elites, it may be an easy thing. There are fortunate Nigerians that bankers come to their offices and homes to do transactions. But there is that man who is selling pepper, selling tomato But at that level, they exchange transactions of trillions of naira on a monthly basis. But the man selling tomato does not have a POS. So when you are buying, he invites a third party whose business is not to sell tomato, but to sell money. And you have to pay charges. You see, so all these things should be considered. We are not just focusing on the formal sector of the economy. We are talking about the informal sector, and a lot of activities go on there. And now, if you are talking about e-transactions, do we have the infrastructural backup? Now, the talk is about the increase in tariff to 50%. You see, in an economy where the minimum wage is 70%, and that's 70,000 naira. And that is like $50 in a month. If you want to even be generous, it's lower than that. And so when you put all this together, you see, we still have a lot. Even when you have the data, what about the platform, the internet access? You see, many people find it difficult to transact. I was somewhere recently. Thank God I monitor my transactions. The fund was moved from my account twice. I had to call my bank that I'm not sure I'm so rich to
allow this.
Yeah. Please see what you can do. So we need to fine-tune a lot of facilities in the country. A wise man said, it is better to measure 10 times and cut once than to measure once and cut 10 times. It's just like when we now said, okay, because of the impact of removal of fuel subsidy, we are transforming to CNG. So how far have we gone with the CNG? You see, so there must be concrete plans to ensure that economic activities are not disrupted. So if we are going cashless, let's go cashless. And the cashless policy started from the days of Sanusi Lamido as the governor of CBN. So we need an economic team that will focus on sustainability and development of the economy. You know, I did a study. When you talk of countries with the best banking system in the world, you talk about Switzerland. When you are talking about security of banking, and you talk about Singapore, when you are talking about access, you talk about Sweden, Norway, you know, Netherlands, and some other countries like that. And they have deliberately developed the system to create an enabling environment, and little wonder that such countries are associated with prosperity and not poverty. So we have to be considerate to all sectors of the economy when coming up with these policies. The banks that have been slammed with penalties of 150 million, they will pay easily and then continue with their practices of cash scarcity. It's quite embarrassing. And we are not even discussing the charges that are thrown on customers. How many will you track? You see, so there is a need to go back to Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that mandates the government to manage the economy in a way that opportunity is given to a majority of citizens to prosper, and that wealth is not concentrated in the hands of a few, and that we have a self-reliant economy. So these are issues. And when you talk about trying to tame inflation, you have to tame the foreign exchange malady to tame inflation. I just read now that Dangote is not even getting the needed supply locally. So he's still being compelled to import crude from outside the country. So how can we become productive as a nation and also produce food and, you know, draw down the pressure on all these monetary transactions? Even in America, where you have cashless policy, yeah, they still spend cash, you know. So it's just for the government to sit up and look at the macro and micro environment and see how we can have a better ease of doing business, and that will help us in terms of prosperity. There are many transactions that are, you know, aborted because of the scarcity of cash and things like that. And right now, you have to buy Naira with Naira. It's quite embarrassing.
Okay, quite embarrassing. I do agree with you. And there are insinuations out there that there's a kind of cartel or conspiracy between these banks and POS operators. And people wonder, why would POS operators have cash and the banks are not having cash to give to their customers? And even when they have, like an example is what happened to you yesterday. You wanted 100,000 naira, and you were told that you can only get 50,000 naira. So is there a conspiracy somewhere? And people are beginning to doubt the veracity of the claim of the CBN that they are pumping enough money into these commercial banks. But even when they are pumped into these banks, they disappeared. And then you go for parties, you see people spraying money, using Naira to buy Naira, like you said. So is there a cartel somewhere?
There are cartels everywhere. Senator Adams Oshomole just spoke on the floor of the Senate, that some retired generals are behind illegal mining and sponsoring bandits. And he said, we know them. That if we say we don't know them, we are pretending. In fact, the former governor of Kaduna State, El Rufai, said that they were in conversation with bandits. These things are documented. And so you know the cartel now. But CBN, in a way, has come out to slam fines on some banks.
The big banks.
Exactly. And I think that should send a signal that perhaps CBN is giving them money and they are diverting the money. You see, so it's now between the POS operators and the banks and those who sell mint at parties. And you cannot rule that out in the kind of country we found ourselves. You know, a country where we have total disregard for Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that says clearly that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. I mean, I'm sure some Nigerians are yet to recover from the shock of what Emefiele did as governor of CBN. You see, the 753 houses, different kinds of allegations and things like that. So when you talk of cartel, they're everywhere in the oil and gas sector. Dangote was compelled to speak out that, hey, some of you have blending plants near Malta. So what are you telling me? You see? So, and what is this blending plants? Reportedly, these guys bring in, you know, poor crude oil from Russia to near Malta to blend. What is the meaning of that blending? To refine it into a substance that is best for managing furnaces and producing cement, and import this thing for Nigerians to put in their vehicles and damage their engines. In this country at a time, overtly, not covertly, some people imported contaminated, adulterated fuel. Who was sanctioned for it? Who was prosecuted? So they are there, you know, if you are well connected, negatively so, you get the means out. And on Saturday, you go and sell and make money. But right now, people are even looking away from that, you know, coming from the Bobrisky experience. And the guy, sorry, I don't know how to describe him now, whether the guy...
It's a him.
The person.
The person eventually ran out of the country. And recently, some children of some prominent Nigerian were also, you know, caught abusing the Naira. But we are waiting to see if that issue will not go under the carpet. So we are in a country where we have decimated the influence of the rule of law. So what do you expect?
What's the best thing to do now? Because one, we need the cash, and we also need, even the online transactions sometimes can give you a headache, because you make some transactions and you can't seem to find a headway, and you're debited, and for you to get a refund, it takes you a while. But that's another conversation for another day. It's a different kettle of fish. But how do we resolve this issue? Should we put more pressure on the CBN? Or do we appeal to the consciousness of Nigerians that, look, or what do we do? Because I know the POS people too, they also, not all the time they go to the bank to get the money. They go to people that transact your shops.
That's the point. They go to filling stations, mop up the available cash. So
yes.
they are even running a parallel system.
Yes.
With the bank.
Yes.
And fortunately, I was in the central bank myself, in the legal unit. And I related closely with the banking supervision, banking examination. So we have these departments in CBN that can facilitate sanity in the banking sector. But is it not a hand has entered hand? You know, it's there. So, and when you talk about penalties, penalties should be strong enough to prevent repetition of offenses. Like I said, 150 million. By the time you charge the SMS charges of how many customers, 150 million has surfaced. So you pay CBN that. Is it or any other fine? What about if some of these banks are suspended from operating for 3 months? Go and study China. China has, I don't want to say zero tolerance for abuse of office. I don't even want to call it corruption, you know. So people are on their toes. People are on their toes. I read in Ghana at the time, a minister was fantasizing on how to embezzle. She has not embezzled. And the president read about it and fired her. I mean, it's as simple as that. And now we are in Nigeria, you know, and I like to get my facts straight, where a better Edu was alleged to have mismanaged funds meant for the vulnerable, vulnerably so. And all she got was a suspension and replacement. I mean, we are in trouble in this country. I mean, we are. We have groomed corruption. And what are the assignments of corruption? To kill, to steal, and to destroy. You see, so it's a tough one. It's a tough one. We have oil in abundance. Some people steal the oil steadily. They make billions of naira. And what do they need this money for? To torment the land. So I wish my president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces the very best. And I hope he leverages on these opportunities to take the shine of restoring sanity to our economy and the socio-cultural life in this country. Nigeria has no business with poverty. I mean,
okay.
I can say that anyway.
While you are wishing Mr. President all the best, because Nigeria is complex, the former president did say that recently, that Nigeria is a very complex country. The people have lost confidence in the banking system, probably because of their experience during Emefiele days up until now. So what do we need to put in place to restore the confidence of the people such that if I have cash, I will not be tempted to keep it at home or sell and make some money for myself?
As simple, reverse the trend. When customers come to bank, let them have access to their money. It's their money. You cannot tell them how to spend that money. Just like in HR, you pay salaries, you cannot tell the employee how to spend the salary. Yours is to pay. Let them have access. Let this POS business become less lucrative. Let it just be an option that you choose to patronize. Make the cashless platforms effective. You just reverse the trend. It's a very simple thing. Every problem comes with solutions in within. So what you need to do is search out those solutions. When Joseph was invited to the palace of Pharaoh to come and solve problems, he didn't excuse himself to go out of the palace. Right from there, inside there, he solved the problems. And the problems were solved. But do we want the problems of Nigeria solved? And that is the question we should be asking. As long as the tormentors of this land have grown into giants, and we are not ready to send the David after their Goliath, we'll just be going around the circle because the citizens are groaning, but some are rejoicing, cleaning out. It was Lamido Sanusi, Lamido, as governor of CBN, who said that you can be in your garden, in your house, and be making billions of naira from foreign exchange transactions. I mean, so what have we not read? in this country. So if you value your citizens, if you value the economy of this land, make it easy for people to trust the bank. I quite agree that right now, you know, the banks are just there because it's more or less like a necessity. You know, I remember a day I went into the bank, I needed money, and they said, we are sorry, we can only pay you 10,000 naira. And I asked them, what will I use 10,000 naira for? When to even fuel the car, I need about 68,000 naira. So, you know, and sometimes you fight. The last time I went to a particular filling station, it took 3 attempts before the transaction was successful. And that is where they deducted my money twice. And I've gone to complain to my bank. So why should life be difficult? Why should you struggle to make money, struggle to spend money? I mean, it doesn't fit. It doesn't at all.
Okay.
And we are talking about what citizens go through. How do you attract foreign direct investments? I just mentioned some countries here now. You can go and check their profiling. Switzerland and all those banks. You know, in Rwanda there, the ease of doing business is fantastic. You know, here you can be on trying to get your NIN number for 2.5 years. I mean, like the Gen Z will say, who does that?
Okay, but the other day, the POS operators were told to go and register with the, what is it called now? The CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria. So is this registration really making any impact? Because when you register, you have data as to how many POS operators that you have in the country and what they are transacting in terms of the volume of their business.
You see, it's one thing to give directive. It's one thing to ensure compliance. What we don't do in Nigeria is to ensure compliance. We can do a research now. Just throw to Ikodo Market in Ikeja and ask POS holders to step out. Ask them, how many of you have gone to register with CAC? Is it the man selling the woman selling vegetable that we go to CAC to register? So that is what we are saying. In project management, we learned that the project does not fail halfway. It fails ab initio. It is from conception that you do what is called risk analysis, everything, so that you don't get caught by an external shock in the process of implementing the project. And that's what we are talking about. So you just come out, give directive, go and register with CAC. Go and do. How do you monitor? How do you ensure compliance? And
I know that that puzzle. We'll wrap it up this morning. I don't know whether you'll be able to help us or give us more meat to chew as far as this unending cash issue, liquidity is concerned. That being said, I want to say thank you very much for always joining us on this show, Mr. Jide Ologun.
It's my pleasure.
Helping us with those issues bothering us as a country. Let's try. Hopefully the CBN will hear this, and of course we'll hasten up the process of making sure that we resolve this cash liquidity in the system. We need our cash, our money. We really do. Okay, we'll take a short break. The conversation continues after this. Don't go anywhere.